We're back. We're live. Braun, Kratz, Pierzynski. Let's do this. You know what's funny is, AJ, we did our last FT live show last week on Wednesday. And then what happens a few hours later?
You went on vacation for Thanksgiving?
Also, there was a pretty big signing, which we're about to get into, and Dylan Cease. But I'm like, classic.
Forgot about
classic nighttime move before Thanksgiving. But you know what I did think about?
It couldn't have been that late, Scott, because I texted Dylan right after it happened, and I was clearly still sober. So I remember the conversation. So, and if you don't know this, kids out there, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I was taught this by my two kids in college, it's called Blackout Wednesday. So all the kids get blacked out Wednesday before Thursday. I didn't know this, but so it had to be before that.
Yeah, I know people going out, but I guess the Gen Zers like to call it blackout because they're really cool since they can drink and no one else can.
Who stays at school? Who stays at school for Thanksgiving break?
No, when they come home and they see their friends they haven't seen for months, they all go out on the Wednesday before and they all call it Blackout Wednesday. You learn something new every day on this show.
Never have I ever.
Me neither. My daughter and son were like, you haven't heard of they call it BOW. And I'm like, what's BOW? And they're like, Blackout Wednesday. And yes, but Dylan Cease signed before we got to that point. So it was good.
Yeah, I think it might have been like 7 o'clock Eastern time. The other thing to keep in mind is Canada has their own Thanksgiving that occurred in October. So they're like, yeah, we don't have that to deal with. Normal work tomorrow. So that was a factor too. So let's get into it right now. Let's charge.
Charging the mound.
All right, what do you have for us with your boy Dylan Cease, AJ? Big boy contract.
Listen, first of all, I'm very excited for him. Listen, this dude takes the ball. I know he had Tommy John already once, but listen, man, this dude takes the ball every time out. The results were sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but he takes the ball. He gives you innings. He'll give you punch outs. He might give you some walks. He might go 100 pitches in 5 innings, but he also takes the ball 30-plus times every single year. So I'm very happy for Dylan Cease. He's got a great place to go in Toronto, a team that is obviously competitive. They could have, should have, maybe won the World Series this year. They lost in 7 games to the Dodgers. I'm happy for him. And when I text him, he said he would come on this week. He just had to see how the press went today. So we'll see how it goes. But he did respond, and he said he would come on to discuss it after he figured out his schedule for the week from the Blue Jays. But good job for you, Dylan Cease, because 7 years, $210 million. I don't know if anybody saw that coming, but now he takes his stash to Toronto.
We've got deferrals in there too, though, guys.
Oh, I didn't see all that. I just see you guys always look at the deferrals, Kratzy. I just look at the number. He's getting $210 million. No matter how much you want to defer, and you can say it's present day value, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's still getting $210 million.
I know, but that is a thing, right? Like if I signed a contract for 100 years, it's going to be a little bit different, right? If I signed a 100-year, $100 million contract, and most of it was deferred for 80 years, money's going to look a little bit different. That's the only point. And when it's this amount of money, it does change things. So the deferrals makes it really more like 7 years, $182 million. It's still the largest free agent deal in franchise history. It's big money for Dylan Cease. I'm just clarifying.
Darn,
that's all.
Scott, that darn 210 to 182 that he's still going to get $210 million.
Yes, I understand that. We have different views on the economics of the contract. Shohei Ohtani's contract is $450, not $700. That is my opinion coming from Wall Street.
I'm going to ask you this, Kratz. Does Shohei Ohtani at the end of the day get checks for $700 million or $450 million? Just asking for a friend.
Yes, he gets a check for $700 million.
Okay, then he was signed for $700 million.
I will strongly disagree against that till the day I die. That net present value does matter.
Some of us are different.
I don't want to get too far out of the picture.
You think Bobby Bonilla is pissed that whatever contract he signed, that he's still getting $1 million every time July 4th or whatever it is hits, July 1st, whatever it is? You think he's pissed about that?
That's because the Wilpons got swindled by Bernie Madoff, and they thought that they were getting returned on all this stuff and that they would just throw that out there because their money would be booming at the time period that they were putting it into Madoff's company. So
that's not what I asked. I asked, do you think Bobby Bonilla? I didn't ask about the Wilpons and the Wolf of Wall Street and all the Ponzi schemes that are happening, I asked about Bobby Bonilla.
Do I think that he's happy that the Wilpons got swindled by?
No. Do you think he's mad every time that $1 million check comes in? Do you think he doesn't care about that? Do you think that he's mad that every July 1st or whatever Bobby Bonilla Day is, he gets a check for over $1 million?
I understand, but if you took the money,
that's a yes or a no question. It's a yes or no question, Scott. Yes or no?
Yeah, I think that players are happy to get paychecks. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then he won. He won.
Okay, but still, your economics make no sense, and I'm going to disagree.
I don't care about economics. I care about a paycheck. And by the way, when Shohei is done playing in 8 years, he's got 8 more years left, and he gets a check every whatever time for $68 million, and he's doing nothing except modeling his beautiful face for New Balance like he does every commercial on MLB, everything. You think he's going to be mad when he's sitting at home with his another dog and kids and everything?
You're confusing. I love deferrals. My point is that they don't equal the net present value of what I'm talking about. Let's bring in Shi Davidi to help us sort through this right now so we can get back on track. Dylan Cease signing for 7-2-10 in AJ's mind, 7-182 in my mind. Shi, what do you think of the move?
I think from a Blue Jays perspective, it makes a ton of sense. Starting pitcher was their number one priority this offseason, and they got a guy who can move forward. It adds a guy who has front of the rotation capabilities for an extended period, which is something that they didn't have a lot of certainty with both Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber being eligible for free agency after the 26th season. So this is really the number one thing, maybe the top priority for the Blue Jays this offseason that they've gotten taken care of, assuming that everything goes well with the physical and gets finalized in the next day or two.
Let's talk about the Blue Jays end of the situation here. How unlikely is this for them to be this aggressive early on in the market? I read your article over the weekend about how they like to be very calculated with their projections, and this seemed to veer off what they usually do. And I think most people, especially Blue Jays fans, were excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does and it doesn't in some ways, right? Because, yes, they tend to be deliberate and patient, but sometimes everything lines up for them. And they've liked Dylan Cease for a while. They've tried to trade for him on a few occasions in the past, including as recently as last spring, and obviously it didn't happen. And this was their guy. And so they would have done their normal work, which would be surveying the market for all the different options. And this came together in a way that's a little bit faster than normal. This is a bit atypical on Scott Boras's end too, where he often takes things a little bit deeper into the winter, but sometimes things line up. I think the Blue Jays in their presentation to Cease did a lot of things that captured his attention, as to my understanding. So everything lined up for them. And I think for them, Dylan Cease is a lot of the things that they tend to value and prioritize in pitchers. There's the big velocity, there's swing and miss stuff, a strong breaking pitch, a history of durability. Those are all things they really value. And sometimes things come together quickly. And so I think that happened in this case. And it's not necessarily something that we're used to seeing from them all the time, but this is one instance where all the pieces seem to line up fairly quickly.
I mean, it was great. If I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm like, we lost in Game 7 of the World Series. And then, we went out and got one of the best starting pitchers on the market. The team knew what it wanted. It prioritized it, and they went out and spent the money that they had to go do this. Now, I'm happy. I'm excited if I'm a Jays fan, Shi. But I'm also like, okay, can we still bring back Bo? Can we go out and help the bullpen a little bit, whether it's a Fairbanks or whoever they want to go out and get? Can they still make these moves? Because as a Blue Jays fan, I'm like, I'm very excited, but I need 1 or 2 more moves, and then we can be really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you're a fan, it's never enough, right? Just keep making more moves and more moves and more moves.
It's not my money. Listen, Shi, it's not my money. So spend it.
I know, and not mine either. And I think you should make the team as strong as possible. Pardon?
Do you have a phone? Do you have a cell phone?
I do.
Are you on Rogers? Are you on Rogers Communication? Because isn't everybody in Canada on Rogers?
Very many people are, yes.
Okay, so
And so,
every time you pay a bill, you're helping pay for Dylan Cease's contract 10 years from now. So thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that the money is there, and I think the ability is there. Like when the opportunity is right, like the way that it's been explained to me and the way that the Blue Jays have spoken about it on multiple occasions, that when there is a business case to be made, that if they can justify it, then they can go do it. And so this doesn't rule them out of anything else that they want to do this offseason. There are a few more things they want to accomplish this offseason, and there are obvious needs. Bo Bichette is certainly key in that regard. But I don't think this cuts them off to anything. And I think if anything, it just gives them more opportunity because now like the major thing on the to-do list is gone. So now you can just focus on other areas and can really just what I think that they're probably doing, or what I think they should be doing, is just looking ways to chase wins right now. Right? Like they can augment in a few different ways. There's a lot of creativity that you can apply to it, but just where are you going to get the most wins for your roster at this point?
Do the Blue Jays feel like they're buying low on Dylan Cease? I know it's hard to say when you put out a $210 million check, but you look at what they did when they got Gosman. He had that mega year for the Giants. They kind of paid high, but they saw the trend of what Gosman has been the entire time he's been there. Cease's ERA was, I think, right at the 4.5, but other metrics would say it's closer to like a 3.5, maybe even a 3.4. So do they feel like they've bought low on this, even though they put out 210 million?
Yeah, I don't think that I would necessarily say bought low, but I think they bought what they're expecting to get from him, right? And what we've really seen in the past, couple of decade and a half or so, is the evolution in free agency from teams paying for what a player has done as a past to them really trying to pay players based on what they think they're going to accomplish. And a big part of Cease's interest in the Jays was, and probably from other teams too, was what do you think that I need to do to get to the next level? And from the conversations I've had about him, people say that he's immensely motivated. He wants to be the best that he can be, wants to tap into his ability, the way to fully tap into his ability. And so some of the questions that the Blue Jays were asked was like, what do you have in mind for him? Like how does he become that consistent front of the rotation guy who's posting every season? And so his camp liked what the Blue Jays had presented. And so I think that would have been what the Blue Jays envisioned for him, like whatever it is that they presented to him, the ideas that they shared at that point in time. That's what helped tip the scales, and that is what I believe they're buying.
Is there a belief also that they made this move this early? They're like, hey, we just won the American League East. Now we want to be the ones that, like, our foot's on the American League East throat. We want to be the one to make the first move. Or was it just something that, hey, you know what, it came together? Because you talked about it. It's not really like a Boris MO. It's more like, hey, you know what, we're going to kind of shop it around. Or did the Jays say, hey, this is our time to strike, so we're going to go after the one guy that we really want, and we'll show the rest of the East, you got to start getting on board here?
Well, I mean, I think the time to strike piece is probably there. The we're going to show the American League East. Like they tend not to think like that. At least outwardly, that they're sharing. I think they're more of the mind of like, how do we just accumulate the most projected wins that we can, right? And I think that again, the acting early. If Dylan Cease wanted to wait a little bit longer, then the Jays would have waited longer for Cease, right? This I believe is the guy they really wanted, and for all the reasons I mentioned beforehand. So if that was going to take a bit more time, they would have played that out. But I think again, getting this done early just gives them more flexibility and more to be frank, just more time now, and more resources that they can devote to other areas to explore other things. Because again, the big primary ticket item that they wanted is now off their to-do list.
Okay, You teed me up perfectly. Let's get to that offseason to-do list.
All right,
Some
so I
things on
think
the
the
checklist
next
guy,
thing
by
to
the way, have been knocked out already. Sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead. What do you
no,
got
you're
for
good.
us?
Yeah, so I think that the next one for them is probably going to be a leverage reliever, right? You can't have enough bullpen and everything that we see in the postseason, how much they value. I think that's going to be one of the next areas of focus. Then they're also going to look to add a bat, ideally an infielder, and obviously Bo Bichette fits into that range there. But again, because they do have some flexibility on the roster from a defensive alignment standpoint, they can do different things and they can pursue an outfielder if they so wanted. Finally, I think they're just going to keep on trying to add pitching. Right, they can again be creative in a number of different ways. You just never have enough pitching. As much as teams have, it's such a cliche, but as much as teams have, you get into the season, it always turns out that it's not enough. And so, is it? Can they add a swing man? Do they add two relievers? Do they maybe go find another starter? Even I think there are just ways for them to further build out their pitching and be something that they still want to do.
Shire, when you say leverage reliever, are we talking Edwin Diaz? Are we talking someone like that, like a big, big name, Robert Suarez possibly? Or are we talking more if you kind of fall down the list a little bit? Not that these guys are terrible, but a Pete Fairbanks, a Emilio Pagan, a Luke Weaver that or coming a little bit cheaper than the big name Diaz, Suarez, even Devin Williams. I'll throw in there as the big name guys. Are they looking at someone like that, or are they going to try and maybe add two or three of the lower end people?
Yes. So
Yes to all of
I just
them.
put it
So Edwin
all of the
Diaz is
above.
signing with the Blue
I,
Jays. Edwin Diaz
no,
to the
I
Blue
think they'll
Jays. Shi Davidi just reported. Yes.
Not quite, AJ. I think you might be taking some creative license there, but I think they're open to all the different possibilities. Like if they can get, if something with Diaz was to work out and it fit within their valuations, then I think they would explore that. And if it's something else, well, they still have Jeff Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia. Then they're pairing another eighth inning arm that gets swing and miss. Like I think the bottom line is they're going to look for all they're going to look at all the different possibilities. It is what they do, and it's why they get connected to everybody. But they're going to look for somebody who gets some swing and miss, ideally someone who is somewhat platoon proof, and you can throw them in there against lefties and or righties, and someone who has some experience in the back end of a game. Now, is that eighth inning, ninth inning? Look, I don't think they're going to rule anything out. I really do think they're just chasing wins at this point and trying to get as much value, as much talent on their roster as they can. But the thing that, like starting like last offseason, one of the points of priority that they made with their relievers was to just get guys who get more swing and miss, or more velocity into their bullpen. And I think that that's been borne out in the type of pickups that they've made. Even if you go back to last year at the deadline when it was Dominguez and Varland who were their pickups there, those are two guys who both have big velocity and both get a lot of swing and miss. So I'd expect the Blue Jays to examine every element of that market, to continue examining every element of that market, and whatever ends up working out.
Blue Jays are seriously in the mix for pretty much everybody, is what I hear from Shi Davidi. So we're going to go to the bat. We're going to go to the bat, preferably an infielder. Is that preferably an infielder if it's Bo Bichette? And if it's not, is it elsewhere? Because Alex Bregman plays a really good third base. And the opening at third allows Barger to play right field, which obviously there's a Tucker talk and there's a lot of shifting around. But if it's not Bo Bichette, is that bat going to be an infielder?
Not necessarily, but it could be, right? And I think that's going back to what I said about the Blue Jays could add in a number of different ways. They, because of Addison Barger being able to move around and Ernie Clement being able to move around and having Springer able to be at DH and in the outfield, the same with Santander, the Blue Jays can just do a lot of different things. and they can go for what ends up being the best fit. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get someone on the super high end if Bo Bichette ends up leaving the club, but they can examine all the different options that are there. And so I think that just from the way that they're set up, I think it makes sense for them to probably get an infielder, uh, probably one who can play second base because you can put him in as a shortstop, and that looked pretty good for the 2 months we saw it in September and October. But they can just play with the opportunity based on the way that they can move their existing pieces around the diamond.
Shy, should the Blue Jays next year with Louis Varland have the little thing that Fox had for Shohei Ohtani? He's due up in 3 innings. It'll be like Louis Varland will be warming up, because is he warming up officially right now in the offseason? And has anyone confirmed that he can wipe his butt at this point in the offseason? After all the innings he threw in the postseason, how many times he was up? That dude was unbelievable for them.
It was incredible. And, just in talking to him, he was just like, I can just keep going. And uh, look, he'll obviously be managed differently over the course of 162, but they were certainly attracted to his durability, and the fact that he showed that he could do that will obviously impact the way the Blue Jays handle him, because they will want to use him a fair bit during the regular season, assuming they will try to find ways to ensure he can still do something like that again in the postseason, should the Blue Jays make it next season as well. But it was really remarkable. There has been some loose conversation about whether or not he gets stretched out a little bit next spring, and whether that's something they look at. I don't know that there's any definitive conclusion whether they're going to go that route or not at this point. But they've kicked around a lot of different things with Louis Varland, and at minimum, they know they've got a very durable and reliable piece for their bullpen mix.
When you said pitching depth as your third point on your to-do list, do they look at it as, okay, Chris Bassett gave us below a 4 ERA, he gave us 31 starts during the year, and he was a piece out of our bullpen. A big piece in the playoffs, but a piece out of the bullpen. So do they look at that pitching depth as something that, okay, it's important, but it's not that important? It's not a Tatsuya Mai type of important. Or is it the whole spectrum of where they're looking for pitching depth? Kind of like you talked about the leverage reliever.
Yeah, so I don't think it's maybe necessarily on the high end, unless they do something else with their staff. I mean, but Chris Bassett to me is interesting. Like, he's a guy who definitely deserves a spot in a rotation. What he did out of the bullpen, I think, created some interest in what that would look like full time if he was a reliever, and how versatile a pitcher he is. I don't think he's the type of guy who would want to bounce back between the roles, go starter, reliever, back and forth as a swingman. But maybe potentially he's open to something like that. He was obviously super important to that clubhouse. He was really tied to, in a lot of way, the artery system of that team, where he was just a central part of almost everything that was happening there. But is there enough opportunity for him with the Blue Jays compared to what he might do with other clubs? Good question. But I think ultimately the Blue Jays just want to find innings. Finding a minor league free agent like an Erik Lauer, who can come up and emerge at a key point in the season when your depth is really being tested. I think that's important. The Blue Jays do have some more internal pieces, be it someone like Bowden Francis this year, who was trending towards health towards the end of the season when he ran out of runway and should be ready to go next spring. There's a Ricky Tiedemann who's coming back from Tommy John surgery and should be ready to go as well. And he was one of the top prospects, not only in the Blue Jays system, but he was a consensus top 100 prospect as well, before he got hurt. So they do have some depth, but I think they'll try to just keep finding ways to add, be it on the major league roster or on the minor league side, that builds out the depth that they have.
Sure. You're mentioning his depth. One of their big pieces last year was Max Scherzer. Have you heard if he's pitching next year? Do we know anything about his future and what he's going to do? Because he performed well in the postseason for him. So, are there any talks maybe of a reunion, Or have we even heard if he's going to pitch next year?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to pitch, and he basically said it just after the season, and then reiterated that in some comments to Ken Rosenthal after. But I think in terms of the Blue Jays, I'm interested to kind of see where that goes and how that fit is there. Uh, you know, Max Scherzer at this point I mean, if depending on health, is he a guy you can count on to go wire to wire, or are there going to be some things that crop up in ways that you have to keep him healthy? Uh, and does that fit with what the Blue Jays are doing? Do they again have enough opportunity? As things stand right now, the Blue Jays have five starters in their rotation, and maybe there's some movement, some way, shape, or form that creates an opening, but they're sort of full there. Does Max want sort of uh, a part-time role, or want to wait for an opportunity, or is he going to go to a team where they have a spot more open for him? I think those are all fair questions. So I think there was a lot of appreciation for Max Scherzer, not only what he did on the field, but the way that he contributed in the clubhouse on a number of levels, the types of conversations that he had with front office people in terms of their game planning and information, and the way that they assessed other players and planned, and all things of those natures. There was a lot of appreciation for that. He very much appreciated his experience with the Blue Jays. So there's a two-way element to that. But does that necessarily mean there's going to be a reunion? I don't know at this point. I still think that before that, there are some things that would happen before that ends up taking place.
So I may or may not see Max on Wednesday. So can I tell him that Shi Davidi said there's no chance he comes back to the Blue Jays?
I mean, I'd prefer that you didn't, because I don't want him to throw something at me the next time I see him. Uh, But look, I mean, I think with the way that he pitched in the postseason, I mean, he's cemented a place in a place of appreciation with Blue Jays fans for who'll remember those contributions, especially that game in Seattle. That was something that it won't be soon forgotten. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think, like, look, we'll see where this Blue Jays offseason goes. And I I think it's still at the beginning as opposed to the end of it, even with such a major move as the cease agreement. But I do think there's more to come. We'll see how much variation there is to the rest of the roster, what kind of changes or further additions are made, and then maybe there is a reunion in the offing down the road.
Do we have to make sure that we're not blinded by their fact that they made it to Game 7 of the World Series? That when we evaluate what Ross Atkins has done for this team, I've been one of the biggest detractors of any. Like, I was not a Ross Atkins fan. The moves he made, the fact that he was getting rid of guys and not re-signing guys, and I felt like the losses kind of fell on him. Now, this past offseason, they went out and got Scherzer, like you talked about, Santander, and really Santander was the big move, and he didn't play much. So was this really a positive season for Ross Atkins because the players played well, or because Ross Atkins made a lot of really good moves?
Well, I mean, it always comes down to the players, right? Like the players, as much as front offices can do. It once they're between the lines, it's all dependent on the players. But I don't think you can kind of look at you can't divorce last season from what the Blue Jays had done over multiple years to get to that point. And I think that's the conclusion that Mark Shapiro had reached, was that 24 went about as horribly as it could have gone, but 24 being as bad as it wasn't fully reflective of some of the good work that had been done in advance of that, and that 24 was an aberration. And I think there was certainly cause for concern with the way that the window was framing up, that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. didn't get done. And this may be narrative, but I do know some people who think that the Guerrero Jr. extension last April, and just removing that as an issue, and definitively setting the Blue Jays window as, like, this is a team that's going to keep competing. This is a team that's going to build around a cornerstone like Guerrero. I think that was ended up being a factor because when they got off to the slow start and were having some issues, it wasn't like everyone was thinking, okay, they're going to blow this up in a second, right? Whereas if Guerrero hadn't signed, then that would have been a conversation around it. And so I think all those things end up being part of the Ross Atkins ledger. And so when you put talented players together and then you find a way to help them be successful. And that's sort of the less discussed part of the Blue Jays season, which is some of the changes that they made to their game planning and the way that they distribute information to their players and some of the conversations around how they attack different things, the evolutions there, from even defensive positioning, pitch recommendations, all those different types of things. Like that is all part of what the Blue Jays did last year. And so if you look at it as they had learned some very, very hard lessons in 2024, but then applied them in 25 and made the best out of a bad year, I think that you have to give everybody some credit. And that includes manager John Schneider, includes GM Ross Atkins. I mean, if you're going to blame them for 24, you can't not credit them for 25.
Well, that was going to be my question. Is John Schneider officially off the hot seat now? Because going into the year, everyone was like, oh, he's going to be the first one fired. And then they got off to the terrible start. And everyone's like, man, everyone's looking at their watch going, okay, is there going to be a press conference today at 2:00 saying John Schneider's been relieved of duty? And next thing you know, he's got him to the Game 7 of the World Series. So is he officially off the hot seat?
Yeah, I mean, it may be done already, or if it's not done yet, it's going to be done soon. There'll be an extension for him, and an extension for Mark Shapiro as well. So I think all that hot seat stuff that disappeared probably around last June or so when the team turned the corner and then didn't let up. And so, John Schneider actually deserves a ton of credit. And there was a very strong case for him to be manager of the year in the American League. Some people around the team were quite frustrated that it didn't happen for him at that point in time. But, the type of work that the Blue Jays did in transforming themselves out of 24 into the group that went into 25, a lot of that lands on him, and he was very deliberate in the offseason. A lot of it was player driven, but it was running through him. And I think that anybody questioning sort of his future sort of didn't watch what happened last year, right? And so I think that'll probably be resolved fairly soon. Same with Shapiro. This is a team that has some stability, that's valued continuity, and is poised to continue with that at two of the key leadership spots.
Yeah.
I
Him not
think he's
winning.
one of the best in the biz.
Him not winning manager of the year cost me an apology to Ken Rosenthal. So, yeah, I was a little frustrated. Not me as one of the
Man.
frustrated people with that. Nothing against Stephen Vogt, but worst to first usually wins you a manager of the year. So I had to apologize to Ken Rosenthal, as Ken Rosenthal has done many times to the Blue Jays. So we know apologies.
There you go. Hey, look, I think like there were two compelling cases there. I mean, the run the Guardians went on at the end, certainly impressive. But I think if you're looking sort of collective body of work, degree of difficulty in between the different divisions, it's for my eyes at least, it's and I wasn't voting on manager this year, but it looked to me to be pretty clear cut.
Yeah, Schneider had my vote too. Shi, good stuff. Much more from Shi. He wrote about it the last few days and on his Twitter account too. You can check him out at Shi Davidi. And you can check out his work in Sportsnet. Always appreciate you joining us, Shi. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, good catching up, guys. Be well.
You too. All right, let's talk about the C Steel here for a few minutes. A couple key points here, AJ, that I'd love to get your thoughts on. Number one, are the best days yet to come for Dylan Cease. You get the classic complaints online about some of the ERAs and even ERA pluses not being great, but there's a ton of swing and miss, right? We've seen some ups and downs from him. So did the Blue Jays sign a guy who is going to peak now, much like, say, Zach Wheeler has done with the Phillies?
I think they are. Y'all might disagree with me here, but I think they are because the contract's done. He knows where he's going to be at for the next 7 years. And this dude has unbelievable stuff. And Pete Walker, their pitching coach for the Blue Jays, has been there a long time, and he knows how to get the most out of guys. I mean, Kevin Gausman, he was pretty good with the Giants. He went here, has gotten better. Bassett's been unbelievable since he's gone. All these guys, there's so many guys, a long list of guys that go to Toronto and they get better because of Pete Walker, because of their hitting and pitching lab. I don't know what it is, but they seem to get better when they go to Toronto. And I think he's going to figure something out with Dylan Cease. If he can ever figure out a way to get Dylan Cease just throw some more fastballs so that he doesn't have to throw a slider every pitch, the sky's the limit for this guy. And I think they're going to get more out of him.
Yeah, I would agree. Strikes are a big thing. Strikes, I mean, everybody will tell you, if you're walking too many dudes, it's always going to drag down your numbers, your efficiency, all that stuff. But the strikeouts are there. So can Pete Walker, and more importantly, can Alejandro Kirk get the most out of this guy? Alejandro Kirk will be the starting catcher. He's going to be back there every day working with Dylan Cease. Can he get him as he's a veteran now. He needs to know what he needs to do. But you also look back at his 2 years that he was getting Cy Young votes. I think it was 20. I should have pulled it up. I think it was 22. 22 and 24. He was second in Cy Young, fourth in Cy Young. How those catchers worked with him. He has Manny Grandal, and I think it was Martin Maldonado. How they work with him and get him to trust that we don't need to throw 3 balls to get a strikeout. You can throw two pitches and get an early out, which will create the opportunity to get ahead in the count, and then on the next hitter, which then can get you early strikeouts. And I think he'll still rack up the strikeouts. So can they get him to do that? That's where he would take the next level. Is he going to take the next level like a Zach Wheeler type of next level? I don't think that high, but when you have the strikeouts, if you have the ability to lower your walks, yes, there is another level to be unlocked for Dylan Cease.
Way better defense that's going to be behind him in Toronto. The Padres defense wasn't terrible, but the Blue Jays defense has been cream of the crop.
Doesn't matter. Defense doesn't matter for Dylan Cease because he gets punchies. The problem is, like what Kratz said, can he get punch outs in 3 pitches instead of 7 pitches, right? And can he be efficient with it? And I agree with what Kratz said. Yes, there's another level there because this guy will still get his punchies if someone can ever figure out how to make it more efficient instead of 3-2 on every guy. I got to throw a slider. I got to punch this guy on a slider. A la a guy named Yu Darvish who did the same thing, and he went to San Diego and actually got a little better. I think Dylan Cease will get with Pete Walker. Pete Walker will say, listen, Dylan, man, we really love what you do. You got unbelievable shit. Throw it over the plate and let's see what happens.
I think what you said, the defense, Scott, is huge. That's going to be part of Pete Walker's sales pitch. Well, why am I going to throw in the zone? And throwing a slider 3-2, what AJ said, is not a soft thing to do. It's not he's nibbling. It's, you can throw the 3-2 slider, just throw it in the zone. Well, sometimes it gets hit. Okay, well, why does it get hit? They hit it hard because I don't think it's as good of a pitch. Let them hit it. We have Platinum in center field, and we have Platinum most likely at shortstop. If he's not at shortstop because they bring Bo back, he'll be at second base. Like, it's a sales pitch. It is probably part of their sales pitch. Yes, the $210 million is what got Dylan Cease there, but the sales pitch of probably the same thing that they told Roki Sasaki last year. Hey, you know what? We get it. You can throw 100 with a forkball, but we just want you to throw it in the zone because we're doubling down, tripling down with the trade of Andres Gimenez last offseason on our defense. And selling that to a pitcher can really kind of get a little bit of relief off their back that they don't have to make the nastiest pitch in every situation and go 5.
Mm-hmm. And last point here, players will sign with the Blue Jays. More likely to sign with them now? Of course. They're winning. Most players, if given the choice, money-wise, are going to sign with a team that they know is winning. Blue Jays look like they had a great vibe going. Yes, is there a factor with taxes and being in a different country? Sure, right? There are pros and cons to most places where you sign. I also don't think the Blue Jays were going up against the Dodgers, which seemed to be a problem for them when going for Shohei Ohtani and Roki Sasaki. So they win the battle here. They strike early. Good for them. Okay, coming up next, Zack Britton joining us, and he'll tell us more about the Ryan Helsley signing, among other questions to ask him. I have a unique holiday gift idea. It is called Superpower because Kratz, they care about you. It's a very unique health platform. It's new and it finally gets you the answers that you need about what's really happening inside your body and what to do about it.
I got the answers. I'm on the journey of what to do about it. Why would I not want to give it to one of my loved ones in my life?
Give your loved ones something that actually lasts. That's right, Kratz. Better health and more time with you. If you go to superpower.com/gift, you get a free $49 premium gift box with your gifted membership. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please mention FT to support the show. One simple lab test measures 100 plus biomarkers. We're talking hormones, vitamins, minerals, and so much more. You'll get a full health report and a personalized action plan built by clinicians, including nutrition, supplement, and lifestyle guidance. Get after it, FT fam. Hey, we've got Zack Britton joining us right now, former all-star pitcher in the bigs, and knows and pays close attention to what's going on with the Orioles. So good timing to have him on. First off, Zack, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good to see you. I'll go right to what you tweeted about with Ryan Helsley. So what do you think of this signing as someone who can definitely speak very well to, closing and relieving in big spots for Baltimore?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think, especially if you don't want to pay an Edwin Diaz to come over, which I think they have other needs, right? So you're not going to spend all those dollars to bring in a closer, at that level. But Helsley, I think if you look back in his career, I mean, he's a top closer in the game for the better part of his career. And then he got traded over to the Mets, and anybody that's been traded, midseason, sometimes you just don't really get into a groove, or you don't settle into the new team, or what maybe he's setting up now. That's something a little different. So I think it's a good ad. It's not like it's a cheap ad, right? I mean, I think he's getting paid closer money to come over there and close, but I think he's a sneaky guy that has a nice big bounce back year.
Zack, by the way, since the first time we've had you on, you've changed, man. You got the special mic now. You got like your own podcast room. Like, you've changed, but that's fine. But what do you think this does for the Orioles? Is this just the beginning of their moves for the offseason? Are they actually – because we all want them to go all in. Please throw all your money throw it all at people to make this team better, because they have the core. They have a core of guys. Will they make the move? Helsley's a nice signing, but will they make the move to actually make this team better?
Yeah, you would hope so, right? I mean, with the new ownership, I think that was the feeling. That's obviously a different ownership group from when I was there and when I was traded. But, kind of the vibe with the new ownership group is like, hey, this is our shot. We got a good young core. Let's add to it. We'll go out and make some big signings. And I definitely think there's still that opportunity. They need some guys in the starting rotation. They have a couple good pieces right now. I like Rodgers. I like Bradish. I think those guys can be in any rotation, top of the rotation, and maybe not the Dodgers, right? But close. Basically, any team in baseball, those guys are towards the top of a rotation. So they're sitting pretty there. This bullpen piece, they need to add a few there too. But I think a top of the rotation starter is what they need. And like you said, that young core is going to get expensive here quick, especially if they, perform at a high level. And so the question is, how short is that window? If you're willing to lock some guys up, then I think the window expands, right? But they haven't really shown that yet. But it takes two to get those long-term deals done. And those guys are, especially like a Gunner, he's represented by Boris, which typically doesn't get deals done before free agency.
All right, I want to get to the rest of the Orioles team, but first I have to get in my Helsley question because you kind of did it a little bit. Obviously, not on the same scale that Helsley did it in the sense where your free agent year, your platform year, didn't go as well as elite level as you were before that. Is there a thing to that? Is there a thing? Because when you're talking about the Orioles fans looking at it like, oh, great, did we get a guy who's on the downslope now of his career? Because you then went to the Yankees in your free agent contract and absolutely balled out with like 1 ERAs back to like almost your peak. Nobody's better than your peak when you had like a 0.5 or whatever. But like, is there something to that free agent year that can get in a closer's head?
Yeah, I think so. I guess for the question for me, I was coming off of a ruptured Achilles, like really bad timing. I mean, let's pick a terrible injury and then just put it right in my free agent year. And then so I only came back about a month before I got traded to New York. And yeah, I was not anywhere near the level I had been prior. And so, yeah, in my head, I'm traded. I'm like still trying to figure out this Achilles thing. Is this a thing that, teams long-term are going to think is going to be an issue? My performance isn't at the same level. I finished strong to that year in September, had an okay playoffs, nothing great. But yeah, absolutely. There's some doubt. I think with mine, it was a known injury. And then I came back and the performance got better as the season went. With Helsley, I think it's the opposite, right? He didn't finish on a high note. There was no injury that, anybody knows about. So if he's healthy, I just think going into a different role, not closing, having to kind of alter your routine, going to New York, anybody that's played in New York knows if you don't get going, if you don't start out of the gate hot, I mean, those fans are going to let you know about it. The media's going to let you know about it. And it's hard. We've played with guys that are elite, go into New York, struggle, have a hard time bouncing back, and then they leave and they're right back to being elite. So for me, I want to bet on the track record and assume if he's healthy that just his time in New York was just, a small blimp on the radar.
What year did you go? You went to 2018 to New York, right? 2018?
Yeah.
Your first year?
Yeah, traded. Yeah, traded in 2018.
Okay. I was just making sure because we just talking Blue Jays and I don't want to bring up the Blue Jays to you. Sorry.
Yeah.
But Helsley came out and said, "Oh, I was tipping and I was too predictable." Dude, he's got 2 pitches. Like, how predictable can you be? You threw 1 pitch. Every time I face you, I'm like, this dude's gonna throw me a sinker and I can't hit it. So I'm just literally hoping I don't hit into a double play if there's a guy on base, right?
Yeah.
But
I feel like that's like regurgitated, right? Is that like regurgitated from?
That's kind of what my question for you was going to be because I got hit, I was tipping, or they found like my glove was here instead of here, right? Like, and then, you only have 2 pitches, so I'm predictable. Is that really a thing for a reliever? Because most relievers really only have 2 pitches anyways.
Yeah, I think it depends on the guy. I mean, you talk to some hitters. I remember going over to New York, and they were, hey, when you throw your slider, I used to do this 3 pump thing when I would throw my sinker. Like, that's just me coming set. And every now and then I do a 3.5 pump. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I looked at my numbers that they had against my slider. They were god awful. So I was like, well, that didn't really work. And then everyone knows that I'm throwing a fastball, so that doesn't matter. So I think a lot of times the tipping is something, that you'll hear from some of the analysts that come down the clubhouse. And they'll be like, hey, we think you're tipping, right? Because they shouldn't be hitting you like this because all your other underlying numbers are still pretty much you, but you're getting hit for some reason. So at least in my experience, I feel like a lot of the times, not all the time, tipping is kind of just like a regurgitated thing guys hear from somebody, on the analytic team. And they come down to try to, because they can't figure out, why. So it's kind of like, hey, you're really good. You're just tipping. So if you don't tip, then you're going to go right back to being really good. But I don't know the ins and outs of his tip, right? I could watch video and maybe figure it out. But there's guys like Garrett Cole, right? He'll do some stuff tipping. And, when he addressed it, the numbers got better. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but works for some guys. I don't really believe in it just because I threw one pitch, and if that's not tipping, I don't know what is.
All right, Brett.
Mariano.
We figured out. Yeah. Your pitch was Mariano's pitch. He just did it a little bit longer. But I have a little Zack Britton trivia here. Do you know how many big league starts you have?
Starts
in the show.
42.
Close. 46.
Oh, look at that.
When you went to free agency, did they ever talk about starting? Because Helsley, all of a sudden, they started dropping this out here. You only had one pitch. At least he had two pitches, so he had a whole repertoire. You had just a single pitch is, a unitoire.
I think I was going to have to pay teams if I wanted to start. I think it would have been that way. It had more of that conversation. No, that never got brought up to me after I went to the pen my first year closing. Nope, starting never got brought up to me again.
Do you think there was ever any real? I mean, obviously we hear about the Tigers. We're looking at Helsley as a starter. Do you think there's anything real with that based on what he's done in his career and his repertoire, or was it just you know what, that'll probably increase your value a little bit in the free agent market?
Yeah, a part of me thinks that might be his agent putting something out there, maybe, hey, this guy he's capable, he's willing to be a starter. Maybe one team brought it up and then it kind of snowballs. But when you look at some of the guys, Clay Holmes is like a perfect example for me. I mean, anybody that played with Clay Holmes and watched him spin the baseball in the bullpen knew that he's got multiple elite pitches or extremely good pitches. And it wasn't far-fetched to see him go to the Mets and be a good starter. If you watched him on a day-to-day basis and kind of knowing his mentality too. But I think just because it works for one guy doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. I think a guy like Helsley is, when you see him throw, elite fastball, elite slider, this guy's closing games. I'm not so sure his value would have been increased at all by being a starter. I don't see that with him.
So what do you think it is? Do you think it's that easy? Do you think teams just look at Clay Holmes and say, oh, we can make a cool closer with a sinker like you were a starter? Like, why do you think like, oh, Helsley has two pitches, he throws 100, we can make him a starter? Do you think it's easier said than done to do that? Because I think most bullpen guys like yourself were failed starters, right? And then they became closers because they had one or two pitches that were unbelievably good. Do you think it's that easy just to be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to become a starter again because, oh, it's so easy?
No, it's absolutely a lot harder to sustain success as a starter. I think it was like myself, Andrew Miller, Wade Davis were kind of around the same time where we transitioned to the bullpen. And if you look at, I think Wade and Andrew had a lot more success as a starter than I did. But typically you try the guy out as a starter, you move him to the pen. Not really vice versa. But I think it just shows that teams are really struggling to find starting pitching. And so if you have a guy like Clay Holmes that you watch every single day, this is probably something internally the Yankees discussed, I would think, that this guy's capable of being a starter. I can't remember if I ever heard it there, but no one was surprised when he went to the Mets and they made him a starter. And Carlos Mendoza was in New York. So, that could have been something that he brought up to them too. Hey, go get this guy and let's see if, we can make him into a starter because he's got the pitch arsenal to do it.
This is no shade to Taylor Ward, but are you surprised that the Orioles gave up essentially on Grayson Rodriguez?
I think the one thing with Ward is, right, he's been healthy. You know what you're going to get at him for the most part. Hopefully he's a little bit of a veteran presence in that clubhouse with a bunch of young guys. I think he reinforces that lineup a little bit. With Grayson, it's, the guy could be a multi-time all-star. He could be, one of the best starters in the game if he can stay healthy. And I think that's the big if, right? When guys get hurt a lot early in their career, I think it puts some doubt in your head. Hey, can we rely on this guy? Or if we're willing to spend the money, do we just go out and get a starter? Maybe they're willing to go out and spend the money and get a starter, right? and that's why they're willing up to get rid of Grayson. So I think at the end of the offseason, we'll have a good idea. Hey, maybe this was because they were going to replace him with, a free agent starter or a high level starter. But if they don't, then yeah, maybe you're scratching your head a little bit. But I think the injury history is tough. It's like, man, we really like this guy. He's got great stuff. We like the person, but can we trust that he's going to stay healthy for the entire season when he hasn't really been able to yet?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Zach, did you see the whole ALCS thing with the Dan Wilson? And you went through this. Dan Wilson and Munoz not coming in and then giving up the home run. You kind of went through that with the Orioles. I hate to bring it up again. I'm sorry. Against the same team with the Blue Jays where you didn't pitch and Buck kind of got crushed for not pitching you. Do you understand that? Do you understand? I mean, it's a different game now. Obviously, analytics have changed that. But do you kind of feel for Munoz the fact that he wasn't in that game and they gave up the lead without him pitching in the game they had to win?
Yeah, it's tough to watch. My situation, I really, not pitching in that wild card game. I think a lot of managers took notice. Actually, I went to the World Series that year to get the Reliever of the Year award, and I talked to Francona for like a hot second. He was like, "Why didn't you pitch?" Right? And it was one of those things. And Andrew Miller was right there. And after Francona left, I'm like, man, you're going to throw in every single one of these games, aren't you? Like after that. and I think there's
and he did. And he did, by the way.
And he did. There's some truth to it. There was some truth to it. And so I think now it's when you see it, you're kind of like, hold on, didn't we learn our lesson a little bit? Like you want to have your guy out there. I understand that, okay, well, if you pitch your best guy, right, and let's say the game's tied or whatever, and he's going 2 or 3 innings, then what, right? But I think you can live with the decision to throw your best guy and then lose it, or have somebody else have to come in and then lose it that way because you used your best arm in your pen. So it is tough to watch that go down. Everyone's circumstances are different. In my situation, I'm not really sure. Ubaldo was throwing well up until that point, but he wasn't a reliever. I was hot. I was ready to go, multiple innings. And I just think it was one of those things you learn from. So, but when you see it now, you're like, man, we can't lose that way. Obviously not understanding, their bullpen dynamic or anything like that. But yeah, you got to throw your best guys out there in games like that.
All right, I want to hear what you have. I want to hear you elaborate on one of your tweets here, talking about this time of year. See, this is your tweet, so I'll read you your tweet. It's kind of like cannibalism, but Twitter. Seems to be this time of year again. Hearing the chatter from team owners about payroll concerns, salary caps, no or low revenue. CBA expires next December. So talks like this will continue to pick up. That was you, Zack Britton, tweeting that out after I think Hal Steinbrenner made his comments about how the Yankees are not necessarily profitable.
What are you talking about? I was sitting at home. I was bored. What are you talking about? No, it's true because, as you know, I was on the subcommittee for the Players Association. It seemed about a year before we were really going to pick up our conversations, maybe slightly under a year. We were going to start picking up our conversations. There's always this, the narrative of, and this is kind of leading to, salary cap, right? So, Hal's on their labor policy committee. I've had these conversations, with Hal, in person, throughout my career with the Yankees. Sometimes it's just more about, and the players do this too, right? The fans just don't want to hear like that kind of stuff. They don't want to hear about like players wanting more money either, right? They're all like, everyone's making a ton of money. Like, we don't want to hear about this. But the revenue or low revenues, or, hey, we're not as profitable as you think we are, or, we have bills to pay kind of thing, always kind of leads to the negotiating table of, hey, man, we like, can you guys help us out here? We want this salary cap, or, it might not even be that kind of tone now. Like, I'm not at the table. It might be like, hey, either you give us a salary cap or we're going to lock you out. I don't know. But it's been the same chatter for a really, really long time. But I thought it was funny because this is about the time, about a year out, where the owners will start talking about that to the media and things like that. And our counter, I remember Max Scherzer actually like across the table one time was like, man, like show us your books and like we'll work with you. If you guys aren't making any money, like that's not good for any of us, right? Like, so like, can we see the books? And then like maybe we'll work with you there. And then no books.
Well, okay. So I love that you were on the executive committee. Can we? I don't know how to say this properly, but can we stop? Can we figure out a way? Actually, not stop. Can we get the Players Association to fight back a little bit in the media? Is that just their thing? They just won't fight back, right? So then people come up to me. I'm sure they come up to you, people that know you're like, oh, is there going to be a work stoppage? And why is this? And why? And you're just like, I don't know. I don't know. And they're like, but all I hear is that there has to be a salary cap. Can we get, and you were on the executive committee, can we get Andrew Miller, who you know, and I know very well, and some of these guys to come out and stand up for themselves? Because there's issues, and the problem is that the fans only hear from Rob Manfred and Rob Manfred's people all the time, and they never get to hear from the PA. How do we improve that and make the PA come out and say, man, this happened and we're going to do this and we're going to fight this way? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I think we did a better job the last go around. That was something that the 8 of us on the subcommittee, it was actually really frustrating at times to read stuff, from the media, and you knew it was just coming from the owners' side, and they didn't even take the time to ask the players. And I guess some of that was on us too, right? Like you got to be willing to engage the media. So a lot of the time was like, well, these guys are employed by MLB, so they're going to spew that narrative. And we're like, well, it doesn't have to be. Like maybe we just build a relationship with these guys as well. And we share our side, and I think getting out in front of some of that stuff was better this last time. And it changed the narrative a little bit behind, actually what we were looking to do compared to, what had been out there in the past. But yeah, I agree. Being able to talk with the fans and let them know what's actually going on from our perspective, the players' perspective at the time when I was on the committee, was important. It still is important for them to do that. I think you toe the line of the fans don't want to hear about, millionaires arguing against billionaires. But the truth is the topics are much more interesting than just that. But yeah, I agree. And I think it's something they've done a better job, the union has, of addressing or speaking to the media and addressing things out there that aren't true. But we'll see how it goes this go around and see if they've improved that anymore.
Hey, Zach, based on your combos in the past with Hal, do you sense that he's frustrated with the way that revenue sharing works? It's not that they're giving money to small market teams, and some of them clearly are using it. Others are not. I think that's very clear. We always look to a team like the Pirates, where there have been years where it's on record they made as much money on concessions and tickets to pay for player payroll, and that's before revenue sharing and TV money. So you're talking like hundreds of millions of dollars, and you don't know where it's going besides in a pocket. So do you feel like there's frustration there? Because I think the real fight that doesn't get covered often is the actual boardroom with all of the owners being like, hey guys, we're giving you all this money and you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, we never had like a really in-depth conversations about that. I think he understands that it's part of doing business is the revenue sharing. So, my impression was that wasn't really something that was, at the forefront of his mind. I think that's the cost of doing business there. For the Yankees, understanding that they're going to be, at the top of that list and they're going to have to cut a check every single year. But Hal, the one thing about Hal is, I really appreciated the communication with him. We did communicate a lot, considering when I came from the Orioles and, I had never really seen ownership. I talked to John and Lou Angelos, but I never saw Peter. So being able to talk to Hal, especially when I was going through Tommy John surgery, I talked to him quite a bit, and he's very clear and open about how he thought, or even how he ran the organization. He was very willing to, anything you guys need, I'll provide it. So a lot of the fight, isn't necessarily with a guy like Hal. He wants the game to continue to operate and everyone to be profitable. He wants the Yankees to do well. He wants to invest back in the team. So there's a lot of other owners that I think kind of stand in the way of some progress happening, and Hal's not one of those guys.
All right. So off your comments, and my next question leads to this. Are the Yankees going to go out and spend this offseason? Because Hal keeps saying, oh, I don't want to go over the luxury tax, and I want this and I want that. And the Yankee fans complain, well, you're not your dad, George. George just went out and bought. We didn't make the World Series for all these years. Is Hal going to go out and spend? Or is Hal waiting like a lot of the owners that we keep hearing, oh, we're going to wait and see what happens with the lockout situation? Because I think when the teams like the Yankees are good, it's good for the game. The teams that most people like, when big market teams are good, to me, it's good for the game. Like, even I'll throw Toronto in there. When Toronto's good, you saw the ratings this year. They were off the charts, right? And everyone's like, oh, we love it when the Pirates or the Marlins make the World Series. But at the end of the day, people really tune in when it's Dodgers versus Yankees and Red Sox Yankees and whoever else you want to throw in there at the end. So was Hal going to go out and say, man, I'm sick of not winning. We have Cole coming back. We have Rodon. We have Fried. We're going to re-sign Bellinger. We're going to bring in Tucker. We're really going for it like my dad used to do, because I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think I think they will. I think they'll go bring back some guys. I mean, they consistently spend, right? You can argue, are they spending on the right guys, right? And I think if there's something I've heard and read from even Negesteem Cohen, it's hey, even if we spend the most money, it doesn't guarantee us a World Series. And you're like, well, absolutely, that's right. Whereas the Dodgers have just really done a good job of paying the right people, and they're paying a lot, but they're paying the right guys. So I think with the Yankees, I fully expect them to pay. They're always involved in the big guys, and I think they'll spend and they'll add somebody big, maybe a few this year, just like they always do. And I think you're right, absolutely. We need the Yankees back in the World Series, and you want them to win a World Series title. You want the Blue Jays, and you need the Dodgers, in the World Series. You want those clubs with those high payrolls and those big markets to be to win. But yeah, to answer your question, I fully expect cash and then Hal to approve it. Going out and getting some big guys. I wouldn't, just from past experience, I would have a hard time. It would be really frustrating too, as a former player, to see the Yankees not spend because they're worried about a lockout. And I can just think about, like the COVID season, right? And all the things, they lost revenue, and, players lost some of their salaries and things like that. And then going into the next free agency, people are like, oh, we lost money, so we don't want to spend the money. You heard some of that, I had an opt-out in my contract after that year. And that was some of the questions that were getting raised. We're like, man, teams lost revenue. Are they gonna spend on free agency? This is a really bad time for free agents. I would have to go back and look at the numbers there to just see if it had some impact. I'm sure it did, but it'd be really frustrating for that to be the narrative, and a team like the Yankees not spend because they're worried about a lockout. Because ultimately, like, you're not going to pay the guys anyway, right? You're going to renegotiate the fact of, hey, man, we locked you guys out, or we didn't play X number of games, so I'm going to prorate your salary even further. I mean, that's going to be their angle. So I don't think these deals should have any impact. They should be going out and trying to get their team better, and then actually hoping that they don't have to deal with the lockout, and they can actually, work with the PA and get something done before, lockout even takes place. But that hasn't been the history lately.
Yeah, exactly. If half a season is missed, which would suck and be really stupid, then it would only be half a year's salary, and you'd still play out the rest of the season. So I'm with you. Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect what they do this offseason. Really good stuff, Zach. I mean, I think in addition to the headphones and the mic, like, he's in the media-ish.
That
right?
mic has really helped him. That mic has really helped him.
This is like what happened when you're really bored and you're like, man, I should buy some of this audio equipment and figure out how it works. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Wait, I got to ask this. Do you consider yourself an Oriole, or do you consider yourself a Yankee?
Well, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. But
I'm talking to you. I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I will say I look at it like two different careers almost, right? Which kind of is. But, I feel like my career will be known for the stuff I did with Baltimore. And, with my brother coaching there too, being drafted there, for me, spending a lot more of my career with the Orioles. I think for me, I consider Baltimore, home, but at the same token, I really did, appreciate my time. And I liked my time with the Yankees organization. And if I still communicate with, players and stuff, it's the Yankee guys, because those are my last teammates. They treated me great. A lot of people in the front office still maintain relationships with them and things like that. So, and the Orioles front office is new. I've met Mike Elias. They're great people too, but for playing, it would be the Orioles. Like, I think my career, I'll be known for the Orioles stuff. Personally, for me, that's how I view it. But at the same time, if I can use the Yankee stuff, I will use the Yankee stuff too. More people know. I actually feel like a lot more people recognize me for like the Yankee stuff, or like playing with the Yankees, not the performance, but they'll be like, oh, you were the Yankee pitcher, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Kratz does with a third of the
It's
league.
because he didn't pitch in that one game. He didn't pitch in the one game, so you can blame Buck, right, for not pitching you in that one game in Toronto. Because if you guys win that series, maybe people are like, man, that he's an Oriole for life. He's like Brooks Robinson.
I know. You imagine if I blew that game, though. I also thought, like, what if I went in there and like the first pitch gets absolutely whacked, like out of the stadium, and then I'm the guy.
No,
I probably wouldn't have happened.
That year, nobody could touch you. Nobody was touching
or I just
that
throw,
sinker ball.
Like I hit a guy, and then like 4 wild pitches to the backstop. That was probably more probable than a homer.
Yeah.
So
that's probably.
Yeah, no, it would have been interesting had I thrown. Maybe I'll have to hop on a podcast and like dive into the wild card game one day. I don't really know. Maybe.
I just know I got one hit off you in my life, and it was like one of the greatest hits of my life.
I actually ran into Taylor Teagarden, and we had a conversation about you. One of my starts, look it up, probably the best one I ever had, against the White Sox in Camden Yards. And
did I play that game?
I think you did. It was a day game, and I think we all were wondering, like, why is he playing in a day game? And
I think that was the hit I got. It was a chopper. It was a chopper off the plate. It was an infield single with my speed crash.
Taylor's like, I've never seen AJ so mad that he was playing this day game before in my life. Like, he's like, he came up to the plate the entire time, and he was like, God, like, why am I hitting? First off, there's like a lefty on the mound. It's a day game.
Yeah.
Like, why am I playing? I can see.
Yeah, true. And then I was like, and look what that guy turned into. Look how good that guy became, Kratzy. You know the feeling as a backup. I'm like, why is Erik Kratz not playing against his nasty lefty throwing sinkers on my knuckles?
Because he wasn't that guy. You looked at his stuff. You looked at Britt's stuff at that point, and you were like, you raced to the bat rack. You were like, I am definitely getting in this game.
Dude, the only guy I ever saw, I know we got to go, but the only guy I ever saw that could hit Zack Britton as a lefty was David Ortiz. And do you know why he could hit you? Because he said he moved all the way to the front of the plate before your stuff broke. And so he's like, I'm just going to hit that 99 before it dives in on my hands. And he raked you.
David. Okay.
Dude, he raked him. Look at the numbers. He actually raked him. And I'm like, he told me that. And I'm like, that's not going to work for me, dude. Like, I can't do that.
I love it. He's a good time. Matt Olson actually he owns me right now. Man, I could not get that guy out. Thank God I didn't face him very much either. But he hit a home run off me in Oakland. If you ever want to check this video out and look at mine, and I think Caleb Joseph's reaction to this home run that he hit, it was pretty impressive. To this day, I'm still flustered every time I see him play on how he did it. But hey, Kratzy broke my hand in Yankee spring training, so don't let him fool you. You did.
I did.
So it's whatever. We can talk about that another time too.
It's not the only hand he's broken.
Oh,
didn't you break someone's finger holding someone back, Kratz?
Yeah, Matt Albers.
Yeah. So, there's a club there too.
One of the best nicknames in baseball, by the way.
Which was?
Yeah, which was it?
I'm not going to say it.
Nope. Don't say it.
I don't know if it was.
Wow.
I'm not going to say it, but it was a cartoon character at one time, and it rhymed with. There you go. I don't know if his own teammates called it, but that's what everyone I know called him.
That's good. I'll have to look it up offline.
Exactly. Hey, all right. Well, we're getting ready for our next guest anyway. Zach, good stuff, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, we'll have to do a longer hang at some point, but we'll catch you soon, okay?
All right. No, thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's Zack Britton. Be right back. Hey, foul territory at the winter meetings, December 8th to the 10th. That is a week from today. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will be doing shows in a place far, far away from Studio AJ. Orlando. Just kidding.
Yeah.
It's a hop and a skip. It's going to be great. It's like a home
You can
game
walk,
for AJ
Scott.
and me. What?
You could walk.
I could.
Actually,
I could
you could
jog.
swim across the lake. You could swim across the lake and then maybe get eaten by an
No.
alligator and then walk.
No.
We could boat. We could yacht. We could yog.
Ooh.
All of those things are in the cards, but we will be at the winter meetings. We're going to talk to as many baseball humans as possible. Kratz will be remote just in case we have any issues. So he's always there for us. He might have to host at times when we are in between interviews, and AJ and I will be over there at the hotel. So we are looking forward to it. And I think we're ready for our next guest. Are we ready already? We're flying today. Yes, we are.
Jeez.
Bob Kendrick joining us right now, president of the Negro Leagues, or the Negro Leagues Museum, I should say. I've spoken to him many times. This is one of the best storytellers in baseball history, Bob. You know, I'll say it. And I want to do this before you explain your role and your job. I want to lure people in. So can you give us one of your favorite stories? Like for me, it's Cool Papa Bell, hotel room, lights. If you want to do that one first, that's cool. If you've got one better, go for it.
Well, no, we'll do the Cool Papa Bell story because it's such a great story, and it's one of the great sports pranks of all time. Because the legendary Satchel Paige would oftentimes refer to Cool Papa Bell as being the fastest man to ever play this game. And so Cool and Satchel fellas were great teammates. They were teammates on a number of teams, including the great 1935 Pittsburgh Crawfords, that many believe to be the greatest baseball team ever assembled. We're talking 5 future Hall of Famers playing in their prime at the same time. So they had Satchel, they had Cool Papa, they had Judy Johnson, they had the legendary Oscar Charleston, and a young phenom by the name of Joshua Gibson on the same team at the same time. Well, when they traveled, Cool and Satchel were oftentimes roommates. So in this particular instance, Cool goes to the hotel room before Satchel. He walks in the room, he flips the light switch on. There's a delay before the light comes on. He flipped the light switch off. There's a delay before the light goes out. Cool Papa says, uh-huh. When Satchel gets to the room, Cool is waiting on him. Satchel gets in bed, Cool hops up. Roomie, I'm so fast, I can flip this light switch off, run over, hop in bed, cover up before the room goes dark. And Satchel's like, Cool, you fast, but you ain't that fast. And Cool Papa Bell bet his meal money. And old Satchel took the bait. And again, in one of the greatest sports pranks of all time, Cool was able to flip that light switch off, run over, hop in bed, cover up before the room went dark. That's how that story came about, that he is indeed faster than a light switch, and he duped his old buddy out of some meal money.
That's really good. And AJ, I feel like that's a prank that you would pull off if you.
No, we used to. No, you know what we used to do? We used to just fake like we had ghosts in rooms, and then we do stuff to people while they were sleeping. But I was never that fast, so I could never come up with something like that. Although if we did one time. We did one time. There was a tape delay game on, and we had one of our clubhouse guys. And this was like before HD, and we were like, "Man, we'll bet this," and it was. We had a night game, and it was a day game from like a different place. And we're like, "We'll bet this happens." And he's like, "How do you guys know this?" And we're like, "We're very smart."
That's good. I love it. All right. So, Bob, we'll mix in some more stories. But first off, I want you to let everyone know about your longtime role and where everyone should be visiting if they haven't already.
Well, absolutely. You have to make plans to visit the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum here in Kansas City, Missouri, snowy Kansas City, Missouri, as we tape this. Our first snowfall of the winter. Hopefully it's the last one, but I know that won't be the case. But anyway, if your travels bring you to Kansas City, come see me. It is such a special place. And fellas, it's special for a number of reasons. Because, and I'm going to say this, you don't have to be a baseball fan to love this museum. Now, we certainly think that is sacrilegious, but you don't have to be a baseball fan, because if you're a fan of American history, you're going to love this museum. If you are a fan of the underdog overcoming adversity to go on to greatness, you're going to love this museum. But if you're a baseball fan to boot, as we say in the country in Georgia, man, you in hog heaven. It combines all of those worlds to come together for a very compelling story about these courageous athletes who, as I like to say, forged a glorious history in the midst of an inglorious time in American history. And the story is really based on one small, simple principle. You won't let me play with you in the major leagues. Okay, I'll create a league of my own. And that's what they did here in Kansas City in 1920. And they created this amazing league that gave an opportunity for the best Black and Hispanic players to showcase their baseball abilities in this country. So it is absolutely just an amazing piece of history. I fell in love with it way back in 1993 when I got introduced to the museum, believe it or not, as a volunteer in 1993. Who knew? Because I certainly did. I had no idea that it was going to turn into a career, and really one of the most gratifying things I think I could have ever done, because I was a baseball fan. And the minute I walked into what was then a one-room Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, just this tiny one room, I quickly realized how little I knew about this game and its history, and more importantly, its history as related to connections of American history. And I just became engrossed in it. And I've been engaged and involved with it ever since. I get to serve now as president of a museum that I started as a volunteer. I've been president now for the last 14 years. And I am just as amazed by this history now as I was 32 years ago when I started volunteering.
Now, you talked about it being just a one-room museum at one point. I think we have the renderings of the new building. Can you tell us what? Yes.
Yeah, that's what our plans are, to build a new one.
What are we going to see? What are we going to see with this render? I mean, I love looking at renderings, the additions, and what the goals of what you're going for. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to fill that part with? Because it's not one room anymore.
No, it won't be. And I tell you what, fellas, I have never been as excited about having to raise $35 million, because that's what it's going to require for us to get this project done. But when you go from a one-room office, as we started in 1990 with this project, today the current museum is about 10,000 square feet of space. So it's not an overwhelmingly large footprint. But as I tell my guests, within those 10,000 square feet is a lot of information, and it's beautifully curated. But here we are now on the cusp of building what I call the nation's first Negro Leagues campus as the gateway into historic 18th and Vine and an international headquarters for both Black baseball and social history. So you can see why we're so excited about the opportunity to share news stories, to hopefully unearth new artifacts, to expound on existing stories, and then have additional space for programming and events and so forth that will allow us to position this museum for long-term sustainability. And that's really the ongoing task that we have now. But I'm really excited. It shows how much the interest in this subject matter has grown over recent years. And I do believe that this museum has had a hand in helping grow that interest. For those of us who are baseball fans, you're going to come to that museum, man. You're going to meet some of the greatest athletes to ever put on a baseball uniform. But by the time you walk away from our experience, you walk away with a deeper, richer appreciation for the greatness of this country. And I think that is what surprises people, because I think they think it's going to be a sad story. It is not. There's nothing sad or somber about this story. The circumstances that dictated a need for a Negro League space, for a Negro Leagues, is certainly sorrowful. Segregation was a horrible chapter in this country's history. But the story here is what emerged out of segregation, this wonderful story of triumph and conquest. And so to be able to now create this campus, because the building that you saw right there connected to the new museum is the building that the Negro Leagues were established, the Paseo YMCA. So we're restoring that building That historic landmark is where Andrew Roop Foster led a group of 8 independent black baseball team owners into a meeting. And they, on February 13th, 1920, they walked out having established the Negro National League, the first successful organized black baseball league. So I'm just as excited to save that historic landmark and then build a new museum adjacent to that historic landmark.
Well, I tell people all the time, and I'm ashamed of this. I've been once, and it was in 2006 after we won the World Series. Kenny Williams, I'm sure you know well, brought our whole team. And it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever been to. And I'm ashamed I haven't been back since. So next time I'm in Kansas City, I'm calling you. Okay, so I'm calling you, and I want the private tour. Okay, I don't want the I want you to walk me through everything. But it was one of the coolest things. I tell everybody, if you go to Kansas City, you've got to go to this museum. And people are like, isn't it small? And then this, I'm like, trust me, if you go there, you will be moved to things that you never thought were possible. It's unbelievable, the artifacts y'all have and everything that y'all have. How much has it helped you guys that MLB has embraced you guys? MLB, we like them or hate them, the things they've done for y'all and y'all's organizations in the past of baseball, including bringing in the stats of the Negro Leagues to make them part of MLB stats. How much has that helped you and opened the awareness to a thing that's very special in America and needs to be talked about more?
It's been tremendous. And let me say, man, that day when you all came to the museum was one of the proudest days ever for me, because Kenny had promised the late Buck O'Neil that he was going to bring the world champion White Sox back to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and he upheld that promise and brought the entire team. That White Sox team was the first and only team that brought all of their players to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. We've had a lot of players visit the museum, but that was the first time that all the players, every one of them, came to visit the museum. And AJ, I'll never forget Jose Contreras. When he walked into that museum and he saw his fellow countryman, the great Martin Tehigo, standing in a full life-size statue there at home plate, the pride that emanated from him as he saw his Cuban connection to this story of the Negro Leagues. And Martin Tehigo is one of the greatest baseball players that most people know nothing about. He played all 9 positions, played all 9 of them well. He is the only baseball player in the history of our sport to be enshrined into 5 different countries' baseball halls of fame. So he's in the Mexican, Cuban, Venezuelan, Dominican, and in Cooperstown. So that was such a tremendous day for all of us. I know how special it was for the late, great Buck O'Neil. But you're right. What Major League Baseball has done in embracing the history of the Negro Leagues, and in doing so, this museum has helped elevate this museum into national prominence. There's no question about it. The things that you mentioned, the rolling of the stats of the Negro Leagues into the record books of Major League Baseball as of last May 29th of 2024, when that happened. And the game that was held at Rickwood Field, a national spotlight for Black baseball history at historic Rickwood Field, where you guys probably know a 17-year-old kid by the name of Willie Mays began patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons to launch what become one of the greatest major league careers of all time. And even their financial support of the museum has been instrumental in the growth of this museum. And it has positioned us, AJ, for this accelerated opportunity to expand the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, because it has done a beautiful job of introducing this story to its incredible fan base. And the fans are responding to this history.
Bob, I need a Josh Gibson story. We can't have 2 catchers on the show without talking about a young man that most people probably don't know, but if you just go to Baseball Reference, there is a lot of italic numbers because he was the best player in the game when he played.
Yeah, and he may be, certainly in my estimation, the greatest combination of power and average this game has ever seen. Because I think it sometimes get a little bit lost, because most people will define him as a great power hitter. I don't. Josh Gibson, fellas, was a great hitter with power. And now that the stats of the Negro Leagues have been rolled into the record books of Major League Baseball, he's your all-time career batting average leader, .372. Single season batting record it held in 1943 when he only hit .466. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that ain't going to be broken. And as you just referenced, what makes it so even more remarkable, he was putting up these incredible numbers as a catcher. No. Catchers don't do that. You get one or the other, power, maybe average, but rarely do you get the combination of the two for any sustained period of time. Josh Gibson wasn't just a good catcher. He was a great catcher. Rifle arm. He is throwing guys out from the crouch back in that era, had complete control of his pitching staff, so he called a great game, was a good running catcher. He gonna steal you 20, 25 bases or more to go with that big bat. And when I say big bat, I mean big bat. 40 ounce, 41 inches, man. And when you look at the photos of Josh, he ain't choking up. He's got it gripped down below the knob. Big, massive hands, big, powerful forearms, big, powerful thighs, and great eyes. The late, great Buck O'Neil would describe Josh in this fashion, that he had the eyes of Ted Williams and the power of Babe Ruth rolled into one dynamic package. Yeah, as we say, his outs were loud outs. The third baseman and shortstop were damn near in left field when Gibson came up, because you're going to get killed trying to creep in on Josh.
I love it. By the way, one of my favorite things about going to Kansas City was always seeing Buck O'Neil in the Buck O'Neil seats, and what they still do to remember him is still, even when I go to do a baseball telecast, they do that. You always stop, and every time they say, "Hey, here's the Buck O'Neil seats," I always listen to who they give it to. It's one of the coolest things. But I know we're talking baseball, but I know you're in Kansas City. It's snowing. I got a question for you. Are the Chiefs going to make the playoffs? Because
I sure hope so. I'm counting on it.
Okay, because here's my question. Everyone in baseball says, "Oh, we need a salary cap like the NFL," but the Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl like 7 of the last 8 years or whatever the number is, and they have a salary cap and there ain't parity. But not long ago, the Royals were in the playoffs. The Royals have been in the hunt for the playoffs. So are the Chiefs going to make it? And if they don't, do they need to get rid of the salary cap?
Well, I think every dynasty eventually comes to an end. We've seen it with all great dynasties, and the run that we've had in Kansas City has been tremendous. Now, I haven't given up, AJ, on my Chiefs, because they would be one of the most dangerous wild card teams ever if they find a way. Now, they may have to run the table to do so, and at the time that we're recording this, they will have to deal with that old Houston team coming in here on Sunday to try and get in the way. But it's got to start with them. And as I tell my Houston fans, it ain't personal. It's just business. We got to do what we got to do. But now it's been a tremendous run. And the city has been on fire around the Chiefs. The Royals, of course, when they won this thing in 2015, there's been a little bit of drought. We made it back to the playoffs year before this year, and we were right there on the outside looking in. And if a few bounces had gone our way, we might have gotten back in the playoffs. But I'm equally excited about next year's Royals team as well. I think we're building something, a great pitching staff. The everyday lineup is really starting to shape up. We'll see what we do to address some of our outfield needs. But, winning sports is a part of Kansas City's history. But as I tell people, no sports franchise won at the level of the great Kansas City Monarchs. I love the Chiefs. I love the Royals. They don't even come close to the winning legacy of the great Kansas City Monarchs, who had one losing season in their almost 40-year existence in the Negro Leagues. And fellas, that was during World War II, when so many of their stars had been called into service. But I am still holding on to my Chiefs making it in to the playoffs and hopefully making another run.
Yeah, they'll never touch the Monarchs. I agree. And if you want to learn more about the Monarchs, then Bob is your guy. Go visit him, please. And also, he posts more on Twitter and a number of other sites where you can check out more information. But on Twitter, he's at NLBM Prez, Prez. Bob, so great to catch up with you. We appreciate the time. Love the hangs. Also love your iconic voice. Thank you. Good to see you.
Man, it's great to see you guys. When you make your way to Kansas City, come see me. please give me a call. It would be my honor to take you all on a personal guided tour of the Negro League Baseball Museum. But thank you all so much for this opportunity, this platform, to help create greater interest in what we're doing here in Kansas City at the Negro League Baseball Museum. The campaign that we've got to build a new one is called Pitch for the Future, and it is available online at www.nlbm.com. If anyone is so inclined to assist us on this next phase of growth, as I tell people, every buck counts. And I know my friend
good.
Buck O'Neill would absolutely agree.
He would like that. He would like that. No doubt.
Yes.
Thank you again. Yes, everyone check out that site. This is a good week for giving as well. Bob, thanks again. And yes, we will take you up on that offer. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, fellas. Appreciate you. Thank you.
KP, the website is chubbyshorts.com. The brand is Chubby's, but it's not just shorts.
Yeah, don't be fooled by the website's name. This is a one-stop shop for all things that I love. Swimming trunks, golf polos, and even flannels. It fits me perfectly. One-stop shop is the place to go.
Yes, sir. KP, I've been wearing their flannel overshirt. It's like my favorite flannel, and your softest sweater having a little baby. It's the best of both worlds. Classic flannel look with the warmth of a fleece, and we know it's that time of year to pull that off. The Chubby's flannel overshirt. It feels like your favorite flannel, but with the warmth of a cozy sweater. And for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your purchase at Chubby's with the promo code FOUL at checkout. But if it's Black Friday, skip the code. Take advantage of an even bigger markdown during their exclusive Black Friday sale. Just head to chubbysshorts.com and make sure to support the show by telling them that Foul Territory sent you.
Show me the money.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
All right,
Great
let's
clip.
get into
Great
it.
clip.
It is such a great clip. The not-for-profit New York Yankees, but they are shopping this offseason. Don't you worry. The latest report from John Heyman about their goals this offseason in the outfield. He says right now they appear to view, ready for this, Kyle Tucker as the backup plan to Cody Bellinger, rather than the other way around. So they are looking to try and bring Cody Bellinger back. They clearly liked him. He's a known commodity. There's defensive versatility, great athlete. Not that Tucker isn't, but they know what they're getting. Not to mention he's going to cost, I would say, significantly less. And if that doesn't work out, suddenly they will go after Kyle Tucker. To me, I actually think there is something to read into here. For example, Kratz, if the Yankees think these two players are pretty close, yeah, I think Bellinger would be a better value for them if they know him, they like him, and he's going to cost less.
Yeah, I don't see how you can bring the argument any other way, because except for the fact that some teams are enamored, and I don't think the Yankees need to be enamored with age. The fact that Tucker is 2 years younger than Bellinger, the fact that you would have a few more years of his quote prime, but the Yankees are always looking for like this year. What is he going to bring this year? And to me, there's less in free agency. There's so many question marks. Ooh, is he injury prone? Is he going to be able to handle this market? How does he fit into the clubhouse? All that stuff. It's already been answered for Bellinger. So yes, he would be a free agent, but no, you don't have those fears, or you don't have that trepidation of bringing somebody in that you're like, I'm not sure how he's going to fit, just because you don't know him. Nothing against Tucker. You just don't know him. You know how Bellinger's going to fit in and has fit into this clubhouse, and he is definitely a lot more versatile.
We're negotiating here for a free agent, right? So what do the Yankees want to do if they want to get the guy for cheaper? So what do they say? Oh, Kyle, we're not really, you don't really fit here. We're going to go Cody Bellinger. So, but if you take less and come here, we'll take you. because you're not really our first. Come on, dude. And the Yankees aren't going to be profitable. Come on. The Yankees are so profitable because of Yes Network and because everywhere you go in the world. I've been all around the world. Guess what 2 hats you see more than any other hats? An LA and the New York Yankees hat. In every color, people that don't even know what baseball is are wearing a New York and a Dodgers hat. So don't give me that they're going to be profitable. But Hal, you're not George. Try to be like George, like we just talked about with Zack Britton. Go out. If you want Kyle Tucker, just go out and sign him because that's what George would do. By the way, it's been since 2009 since y'all won. Just saying, 2009. That is a lifetime for a Yankee fan.
AJ, are they a better team if they sign Tucker over Bellinger?
It depends. Yeah, I think Kyle Tucker at the end of the day is a better player over the long haul of a contract that they're going to have to sign him to. And I think Tucker is a better player right now. But the question is health. If Kyle Tucker's healthy and he's engaged, absolutely they're a better team. But there's ifs with every free agent contract. There's ifs with Dylan Cease. There's ifs with Juan Soto. There's ifs with every person. Shohei. What if Shohei wasn't going to pitch? Remember we asked that question. He came back and pitched. There's ifs with every free agent contract. If you want the player, go get him. You're the Yankees.
But as the team is constructed right now, Kyle Tucker in right field, is there value there for the Yankees to move Aaron Judge, to take Kyle Tucker, who this year had a below average defensive year based on the numbers? He can have an above average, but he'll never be elite. You're putting him at a new position. Is
Kyle Tucker will never be elite in right field?
No. I didn't say.
Oh,
he's never been elite in right field.
Kyle Tucker?
Yeah. Does he have a Gold Glove?
He's been a finalist.
Based on the numbers, he's never been elite in right field. His best.
He was won a Gold Glove in 2022, so he's been pretty damn elite at some point.
The best numbers that he ever had defensively, he was a .4 WAR player in right field. That's his best. Okay. I'm sorry. 22 when he won his Gold Glove. It was a 1.1 WAR defensively in right field. So
okay,
to me,
elite? Is that elite? I don't even know what that means.
Wait, hold on. Let me bring me in for a second.
That's elite.
Yeah, that one here is.
So you just said he's never going to be elite, which he's won a Gold Glove and he's elite. So I don't understand what the argument is here. He's younger.
I'm in between here. 2022, he was elite. 8 run value on outs above average for StatCast is elite. But since then, -4, 2, 0. So I see what Kratz is saying.
But he's also been hurt.
Defender
the last 2 years, he's been hurt. So you throw those out.
Okay.
But to me, yes. So you'd rather have Cody Bellinger in center field or first base than Kyle Tucker. I mean, does Kyle Tucker make you better? I mean, you're going to have Grisham, right? Grisham took the qualifying offer, so he's on the team. He's going to be your center fielder. Can you move Kyle Tucker to left and keep Judge in right? Or do you move Judge to left to maybe try to keep the old a little more healthy? I don't know. But I think Kyle Tucker makes him a better team, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree that you should get.
The question is, how much of a difference is it? Yeah, because Bellinger's really good out there. The question is, how much of a difference is it, right? If Kyle Tucker ends up getting, let's just throw random numbers out there, $400 million, and Bellinger ends up getting $200 million, I think the Yankees brass is like, yeah, we'll take Bellinger.
Okay, then that's their decision. It depends on also the length of the contract, right? So, I mean, that's their decision. I get that part. But that wasn't the question to me was, who's a better player? The better player is Kyle Tucker. There's always ifs. If Cody Bellinger didn't hurt his shoulder that 1 year, he's won an MVP. So, yeah, he's younger. Yes, I get all that. But there's so many ifs when it comes to free agency. At the end of the day, if you want the player, go fucking get him.
But I would say this statement of who, like, if you're putting, because every player has a value, and I don't think anybody's gonna deny the fact that Tucker is a better player than Bellinger, and he's younger, all that stuff. But the fit on the team, how it goes, anybody can get injured. I get all that stuff. I'm not bringing any of that up. It's more of, is he that much better for the extra money that you're going to pay, and how he fits on the team, where he's going to fit on the team, and what's that? Maybe he does go and play left field. Like, great, cool. But all of this saying this, if the Yankees are out, how much does that hurt his free agency? Kyle Tucker's free agency, because you need 2 to tango.
They're
not out. They're not out yet. But Cody Bellinger
out.
at some point
This is all
going
negotiation. All negotiation. This is all negotiation. It's all negotiation. Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees have probably told John Heyman, hey, put this out there so maybe he'll lower his price. We can get him cheaper, or make another team bid on him because they think we're out or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're not out. Until I see someone else sign this guy, they're not out on him. This is all negotiation. This has been negotiating 101. Hey, let's throw it out there that we don't want the guy so that everyone in the media thinks we don't want him, and boom, we get him. I mean, it's the way they do it. It's smart. It's smart. It's smart.
Yeah, there's just a big money difference between what these two players are going to end up getting.
Maybe, maybe not. We don't know that until they sign. Yeah. We don't know that. We don't. Maybe they can get Kyle Tucker to sign a 1-year deal to go to New York and have another great year and play healthy. Maybe they can get him. I don't know. We don't know until someone signs. We don't know. You weren't shaking your head about Pete Alonso like that last year. He signed a 1-year deal. Alex Bregman, 1-year deal. These are all guys that you didn't say, oh, no, that'll never happen. Guess what? They both had it happen to them. Kyle Tucker coming off 2 years of being injured. No. Maybe there's a 1-year, $45 million deal out there. And he's like, you know what? I can go rebuild my value in New York, where I can hit a ton of home runs because it's a short porch on both lines, and I can stay healthy. I don't know. We don't know until I see him sign. We don't know. Cody Bellinger did it. Hell, he did it twice with the Cubs.
That's true. Yeah, it's not crazy. It's happened before where we are shocked. And yes, sometimes they have, quote, insurance behind them where they're longer guarantees, but the opt-outs are very enticing. So they're most likely to play for a season, prove their value, and the opt-outs almost serve as insurance in case the player gets hurt or drastically underperforms. But anyway, it should be interesting. We'll keep following this, and maybe something will happen during the winter meetings where one of them signs, and then that creates a lot more leverage for the other player. You would think that Bellinger's going to wait it out in his camp for Kyle Tucker to sign first, and it's two different agencies, right? So you would think that will happen. Do you guys think that will happen, right? Because Tucker is technically rated higher by most front offices, of course. So do you think
not if he gets a deal he wants?
Right.
No, why? Okay. He gets the deal that he wants. If Boris, I'm pretty sure he's a Boris guy. If Boris gets a deal and Clay, Cody Bellinger's like, yeah, I want there, and I want to go back to the Yankees, and they're offering me a deal I want. Heck yeah, he'll sign. Because then here's the thing: if let's say the Yankees do sign Tucker, then Bellinger's like, man, I really wanted to go back there. Why didn't I just take the deal they offered me? So there's so many things that go into this. It's not, I wish it was plug and play, blah, 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 but it's not. It's not fantasy baseball. It's not rotisserie baseball like these call it. There's things in people's mind that have to happen.
Yep. Bellinger is Boris and Tucker is Excel. Let's get to a signing that actually happened. What do we think here? 2 years, $28 million for Ryan Helsley. He will not be a starting pitcher. He is going to join the Baltimore Orioles bullpen. So far, AJ, we've seen the Orioles acquire Taylor Ward, and we've seen them now pick up Ryan Helsley. They also did trade back for Andrew Kittredge and pick up his option so that they can start to rebuild their bullpen. Keep in mind that Felix Bautista is going to miss this coming season, which is a big blow for them. I'm a big Bautista fan, but Helsley can fill the void if you think that this past season, especially his time period with the Mets, was an aberration. Were you surprised about anything here?
No. It was a great deal for both. I think it's a great deal for both people involved. I think for Helsley, I mean, there was talk about him going back to St. Louis. That never happens except for Aroldis Chapman going back to the Yankees that time when he got traded. And I think Helsley got a good deal. He got it. Again, this kind of goes back to the argument we just had. He got a deal he wanted from a team he's okay going to. And you know what? Whammo, it happened. And it happened fast. And I think it's great. I think it's great for both parties involved and good for the Orioles, good for Mike Elias. It gives the fans something to be happy about around Thanksgiving. And it gives Ryan Helsley a chance to go to his mom and his dad and his wife and his kids and everyone else in his family and say, gosh, guys, I just got paid and we can have a hell of a Christmas.
And Kratz, if he goes off, he can opt out after year one of this deal and hit the free agent market again, because this was a guy heading into this season that you thought would probably get a little bit more than this. Now you're looking at this past season and some fans were like, what? 2 years, $28 million for him? But I mean, heading into 2025, he was looked at as what, maybe a top 5, no more than top 10 reliever in the sport?
Man, I mean, especially after leading the league in saves on a Cardinals team in 24 that wasn't great. He was going out there. I think he was 49 of 50 that year, but I'm not 100% sure.
49 for 53.
For 53. Okay. So I thought he was coming out of the 24 season, after 24, I thought he was like a four-year type of closer, 12 to 14 million. So I'm glad he got the 14 million, a little bit more AAV than you see some closers getting of his ilk, because he's not quite in the Edwin Diaz, Robert Suarez, definitely not in the hater land, that kind of thing. But you have a guy who, to me, because he only got 2 years, the opt-out is huge. He gets to rebuild his value, and he's going to a team in the Orioles who everybody had this on their bingo card. The Orioles are going to be the most active early on here in the offseason. Like, no, nobody saw that. Have they signed the biggest contracts? No, but they're going after the guys that they really wanted. They didn't think Grayson was going to be there, so they went and got a 30-plus homer bat in Taylor Ward. They added Leody Taveras. Smaller deal, not agreeing with it based on who they have in the outfield, but they did it. So they're moving. They're moving on the pieces that they want, adding Kittredge, adding Helsley, because I think they had the most to do. Of teams that think they want to contend, even though this past year was awful, they have the most to do. They need starting pitching. They've essentially needed to rebuild their bullpen because they don't have Bautista. They don't have Yunier Cano. At least I don't think they have Cano. They don't have Sir Anthony Dominguez anymore. They really were down to the bare bones, and they can't screw it up again with this window. So I love that they're going out hard here at the beginning of the offseason.
They do have Cano. He just had a brutal year. I mean, he was really good in 2023, 2024. This past season, 58 innings, 5.12 ERA, really fell off.
It was bad.
It was
bad. He was bad. He wasn't good. That's okay.
They have bullpen work to do. I mean, now
you throw Kittredge, Helsley. I mean, they're doing the right things. They're making the right moves, right? Throwing Ward in the outfield. They're trying, but they still need starters. They still need starting pitching. Who's that going to be? And I'm proud of them. But I'm proud of them, Scott, and I'm proud of what Kratz just said. They're going out early, and they're targeting their guys, and they're getting the deals done. Go sign the guys you want. Go trade for the guys you want, and then worry about the rest later, because there's always those bargain guys you can find.
Right now, 4th power rankings, AL East for me. A lot of offseason left to go. And Ken Rosenthal did say that executives around the game felt as if there was almost going to be a sense of desperation mode, which was music to the ears of Orioles fans, for the front office to try and do things quickly. Because you're right, Kratz, they do have a lot of work to do. The Blue Jays are adding on to what they just had, which was almost a World Series title. The Yankees have Garrett Cole coming back this season and plenty of other talent. You know they're going to do things. The Red Sox seem like they're going to do things. They've already added Sonny Gray. Those 3 teams look better right now on paper than Baltimore. And then there's Tampa Bay. They're not going to be that active, although maybe things change with a new ownership group. But do you guys have them any higher than 4 right now in your power rankings in the AL East?
Does it matter? Doesn't matter. It's December 1st. And you know what you had last year? You had the Blue Jays as 5th in the AL East at this time. And you know what? They went to the World Series and should have maybe won it, depending on who you talk to.
Why do we even do the show? Why don't we just do the show for Game 7 of the World Series?
No, I'm just saying. Doesn't matter. It's December 1st.
Yeah, they have a lot. My point is,
where will Juan go? Who cares? He signed with the Mets, and they didn't make the playoffs.
That's true.
I will say I agree that they're 4th, but this is also showing that any team out there that thinks they have this like super core, that's when you start pushing in, because all of a sudden, like Adley Rutschman came up in 22. He was like, that was when this core started to like get to the big leagues. That was the first like wave of coming to the big leagues. That's when they should have started pushing in, but instead they traded their closer right when they were like, I don't know what they were. I think they ended like 81 that year or something like that. And they traded away Jorge Lopez. And it was like, well, why would you trade when you're close and all this stuff? As soon as your core gets there, start pushing. Because now we're fast forward in 2026. The Blue Jays, who nobody thought were going to be there, are now pushing to be better than they were last year as the American League East champs. The Red Sox have a young core. The Yankees are always going to be there. They're always going to be a playoff team. And all of a sudden, now your core has questions. Like, put your job on the line. In my opinion, if you're running an organization right now and you have that core like the Orioles had, and they still kind of have, but now they're playing catch-up. And you don't want to be playing catch-up. You need to be the big dog out in front.
Good stuff. Let's hit our little Leo segment coming up. And then in Slap, we'll talk about Anthony Rendon's buyout talks. We're hitting the futures market right now because if you're a baseball fan and you're missing games, that's really all you can do. You can hit the futures market and decide on what you think is going to happen next year. I mean, this one's always pretty close, but World Series winning league right now, National League's at -130, American League's at +100. National League gets the edge, partially thanks, or many thanks, to the Dodgers, who have won back-to-back titles, and there are other talented teams in there too. What would you do here, AJ, if I gave you 100? National League. $130 you're throwing it on.
How many times did we go over the power rankings? Every time producer lady made us go over the power rankings, it was National League, National League, National League, National League, National League. Oh, then there's an American League team at like 6. Not that much has changed. Again, it's December 1st, Scott.
Okay. Kratz?
Same. I would go National League because most of the year we were going National League, Tigers, National League, and you saw what happened with the Tigers. Just right now, the National League is better. They are a better group of teams. So why would you not put that money in? And if I was getting maybe like +140 with the American League, then I'd maybe like, you know what? I kind of like those numbers, but no, I need that National League -130 easy.
I feel that. The plus a hundo is not sexy enough. Maybe that tilts at some point in the offseason, but not right now. Okay. The offer out there for you is FOUL, FOUL, and get yourself up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets. If you don't win your first bet, that's your new player offer. There's also another chance at the first touchdown scores, second chance promotion. So you get your stake back in cash if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead of first in a pro football game with a player that you pick to score the first touchdown of the game. So you can check that out. Or if you're new to the party, the bonus code is FOUL for that new player offer. BetMGM, make it legendary. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Damn, that show flew. Okay, so last licks here that I want to get to is the Anthony Rendon story that we actually did cover. So we had our last show on Wednesday. That story broke maybe 30 minutes after the show. So we ended up doing what we call a little breakout video. So we did a little quickie video reaction on YouTube. AJ wasn't there for that, so we wanted to get his thoughts on this. And I did a lot of back and forth in the comments, AJ, because when we did this segment, AJ, Kevin Pillar was on, and he started with Anthony Rendon is misunderstood. And once he said that, everyone lost their minds.
You know what's funny is I actually did see that clip, and I felt bad for Pillar because he did play with him for a little while. Here's where he's not misunderstood, though. He doesn't play. So he's not misunderstood. He doesn't play. And here's my other thing about this. They want to buy me out. If I'm Anthony Rendon, and I am. Anthony Rendon and I don't know each other. We played against each other very little bit when he first came up with the Nationals, and he was a really good right-handed hitter and this and that. But I'm going to say this. If I'm Anthony Rendon and they come to me and I don't know what they're coming to him with, but they're like, hey, we want to defer money. And then I listen to Scott Braun talk. I say, I'm not deferring money. Release me and pay me what you owe me. Don't try to buy me out and push money back. We signed a contract. I want my money now. So that's what Scott Braun said, because then 5 years from now, it's worth less. So pay me what you owe me and we move on. And I'm not on any side in this fight other than the fact that they signed a guaranteed contract and it's time to go.
Is that just me or no?
No, that was just you.
No, it's just me. I cannot hear anything right now. Okay, go Kratz.
I said all my pieces about it, but I agree. Like this, hopefully it can be amendable in the sense that he's still going to get his $36 million, I think. But I think it's something that, if he can be willing to push it down the road, help him out with some of the taxes part of it. Nobody. I think Rendon and the Angels both want this to go away, but it's not going to until this gets figured out, ironed out, and then you won't hear from Anthony Rendon and the Angels anymore about this.
True. They both want it to go away. But speaking of going away, I have a quick comment for you. And I was not on. I was on vacation. And you guys had Kevin Kiermaier on. And he brought up my comments. And I stand by what I said, Kratz. And I want to know, because if I would have been on the show and I want him to come back on, who are the teams that called you? How many teams? Name the teams, Kevin. Bring it on, because then I want to know what they're offering you. Hey, they're offering you to come to spring training for a day or two, and they're not going to hire you. And yes, there are mental skills coaches that talk to different things and talk to different teams, and I get that, but not outfield coaches that I've ever found. And I'm all for it if he can figure it out, because I want that job. I want to be a catching coach for all 30 teams. So, Kevin, name the teams so we can figure it out, and let me know when you get that job, because I'm for it, but also I stand by what I said. Until I see it, I won't believe it. When I see it, I believe it, because you know what? I once played for the St. Louis Cardinals, and they are in the show me state. So show me, Kevin.
Okay, I appreciate that, and we loved it that he called you out, and he's keeping receipts. So next time KK comes on, we want to know. We'll find out what teams he went to, and because it's not going to be a secret, he's going to be trolling around. But we'll go to Kratz hats. How can I not when my guy Zack Britton's coming on wearing an O's hat? Very classic O's. I feel like I could wear an O's hat all year. He is not a Yankee. I love that you asked that question. He played for the Yankees, but he was not remembered as a Yankee. He will be the dominant closer of the team that came up a little short. But it wasn't his fault. Tomorrow's guest list, we have Max Muncy. We've got FP Santangelo from Splash Hit Territory and your favorite senior insider, Ken Rosenthal. Oh, and don't forget, we're still running the Black Friday special on the Foul Territory shop for all your merch. You can even get Foul Territory merch. You can get Fair Territory merch also. And AJ, I know it's getting cold in Miami and Orlando, so I think you probably need a beanie. You have a beanie type of head, so get yourself a.
Or beanies never. Or beanies never. And by the way, bear down, bitch. Bear down, best record in the NFC. As you said, Kratz, the Bears are so good.
They're so good.
The Bears are so good.
That's what I texted AJ. Ride the highs.